아침 7시가 됐습니다. 월요일 날입니다. 야, 이거 4월달이 금방 또 지나가고 있습니다. 자, 이 시간은 제가 국내 영어 신문을 간략하게 좀 읽고 한 30분에서 뉴욕타임즈도 좀 우선 국내 영어 신문 3개를 한번 중간중 한번 읽겠습니다. The Korea Times. Yoon opposition leader to hold first meeting today. Expectation low for results in high stakes at the event. A high stakes meeting between President Yoon and Representative Lee, leader of the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea, is set for today, but the likelihood of any significant breakthrough appears slim. Yoon and Lee are slated to hold talks at the presidential office in the afternoon without a prearranged agenda. This marks their first official meeting since Yoon assumed office in May 2022. After narrowly defeating Lee in the presidential race. Korea-Japan feud looms largely over neighbors at the line. The prospect of a diplomatic feud between Korea and Japan is looming large as Tokyo began trying to exclude neighbor from its joint management with the SoftBank Line mobile messenger app, according to industry and government officials Sunday. Beating the heat, children play in a water fountain at Gwanghwamun Square in central Seoul Sunday, when the daytime high soared to nearly 30 degrees Celsius in the capital and even higher in other regions, while the nation saw summer-like temperatures over the weekend. The weather is expected to return to normal levels today, according to Korea Meteorological Administration. Surging food prices weigh on household. A working mother of 2 surnamed Kim said having food delivered is no longer an easy option for her. I didn't mind letting my children order pizza or fried chicken whenever they wanted, but I don't think we can do anymore. The price of everything continued to climb these days, she said. She used to not think twice about having food delivered, since spending time in the kitchen was the last thing she wanted to do after a hard day in the office. Her children liked it, and she could better use her time and energy. But things are different now. A box of fried chicken is well over 30,000 won, with some extra side and the delivery fee included. Once or twice a week of that can add up to a lot of monthly spending. She finds grocery shopping just as expensive. Presidential hopefuls take different paths toward the Yun. Presidential hopefuls face a growing dilemma about if and when to return to President Yoon's side, as he currently faces a huge political setback. After the ruling party's defeat in the general election on April 10th. DPK leader get YouTube gold play button. Representative Lee, chairman of the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea, has received a YouTube gold play button after his online channel passed the 1 million subscribers mark, making him the first Korean politician to reach the milestone on the video sharing program. The gold play button is given to YouTube accounts that reach 1 million subscribers. The Korea Herald. Dear Annie, I don't want my in-laws to stay with us when they visit. Dear Annie, my husband and I just moved from Ohio to South Carolina for better weather. We also went from a tiny house to a big, beautiful home. My in-laws always threaten to move in with us, and they think it's funny. I can't understand them. I loathe them. They are alcoholics. And when we lived in Ohio, my husband would go to their house every weekend and drink heavily with them. Tensions heighten ahead of first president opposition chief meeting. Ruling party denounced plans to pass contentious bills. Main opposition called for national policy shift. As the high-profile meeting unfolded amid substantial divisions between the ruling and the main opposition parties on multiple fronts, considerable attention is directed toward which are the topics Lee will prioritize from a lengthy list of tasks during his talks with Yoon. The meeting's agenda has yet to be officially announced, but Lee's Chief Secretary, Representative Chun Jung-ho, told reporters that the opposition chief would use the occasion to convey to the president the people's message as expressed in the results of the assembly election. Neighbors' line ownership is in jeopardy as Japan ups the pressure. Experts called for the diplomatic efforts to tackle unfair case. Pressured by the Japanese government, SoftBank is reportedly making moves to acquire Neighbor's stake in LY Corporation. Unprecedented request. Korean farming household fall below 1 million for first time in 2023. The number of farming households in South Korea fell below 1 million for the first time ever in 2023, and half of farmers were aged 65 or older, data showed. More eateries that went out of business in 2023 than worst pandemic years. Roughly 1 out of 5 businesses in the food service industries here went out of business in 2023, a higher rate than during the years of economic slump sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic, according to figures disclosed by a local data analysis firm. Hamas receiving Israeli proposal for ceasefire. Hamas said Saturday it was reviewing a new Israeli proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza as Egypt intensified efforts to broker a deal to end the months-long war and stave off a planned Israeli ground offensive into the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah. Korea JOONG Daily. Numbers necessitate immigration rethink. Society is growing more multicultural, but politics had lag behind. For a business owner in Korea, foreign workers are essential to keep his factory going. At a motor factory nestled in Panol Industrial Complex of Ansan, Gyeonggi, 6 Vietnamese workers who all came to Korea for employment were diligently assembling motor parts when the Korea JOONG Daily visited last month. We have no choice. We have no choice but to hire foreign workers to maintain our business. Yu Young Chul, CEO of Ansan-based motor company Gentech, said in an interview with the newspaper at his office in the city's Tanwon district. The company manufactures motors and parts used in vehicles and machines. 4 contenders vie to become Korea's newest internet bank. Competition to become Korea's first internet-only bank is growing fierce, with 4 consortia having already filed to gain regulatory approval. Kwansi and Parachute differ little in the end. The 2008 Sichuan earthquake was a massive disaster that left 87,000 Chinese people dead and 17,000 missing. Most of the deaths came from building collapse. Delving into the portals of the devastation, Yiming Kao, a professor of economics at the University of Hong Kong, couldn't hide his embarrassment as some structures remained intact even when other buildings completely fell apart. For instance, a kindergarten and a hotel near a primary school were not affected, by the magnitude 8 earthquake at all, even when the school fell to ashes. One may what what made the difference? Curious. Professor Y started collecting data on 1,065 public buildings in the province, including schools, hospitals, and government buildings built between 1978 and 2007. He compared their year of construction and seismic design to the degree of their damage from the quake. It turned out that most of the buildings that suffered great damage had bypassed earthquake resistant design in the process of construction. If they had followed the seismic design guideline, the damage would certainly have been less severe. New chief of doctors group takes the hotline. KMA's president-elect says no talks until government reforms script. The new leader of the nation's largest doctors group on Sunday said that medical professionals would take a seat at the bargaining table only after the government scraps its medical reform policies, including the enrollment quota hike in medical schools. McDonald's joins price hike trend. 16 items will get more expensive, matching moves by other chains. McDonald's Korea will raise prices by an average of 2.8% on select menu items starting May 2nd, following a similar move seen at other burger franchises. Smooth sailing for shipbuilders on strong sales in first quarter. With the reported figure, the company successfully turned to the black from a loss of 19 billion won in the same period last year. The geopolitics of Africa's debt crisis. The United States has a population of roughly 330 million, while all NATO countries combined have about 975 million. Adding NATO's major Asia-Pacific partners, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, brings the total to 1.3 billion. By contrast, Russia and China together have a population of about 1.6 billion people. The rest of the world, including India and much of Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, is home to 5.3 billion people. 50 years of immunization is a half success. There is a good chance that you know one of the 154 million people who over the past 50 years have been saved from a preventable death by routine immunization. Can nuclear armament really cut the knot? Cut the knot? Perhaps the redeployment of nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula is not a matter of a distant future. The idea hovered in my mind as I recently interviewed top 14 affairs and security strategists in the United States, including former Deputy Under Secretary of Defense for Asian and Pacific Security Affairs, Richard Lawrence, former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, and the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy and Force Development, Elbridge A. Colby. They started by acknowledging the reality that North Korea is a de facto nuclear power and has the capability to attack the U.S. and the mainland. Cartier exhibit explores the crystallization of time. Over 300 antique pieces by renowned jeweler on display. Agenda. New agency could solve immigration policy woes. However, he stressed that the agency should be established with an exact purpose and direction set for the institution. Give hope, not despair, to the people. The rare meeting is expected to last at 1 hour, but we hope the two leaders have a sincere conversation with no time limit. If needed, they can have a meeting by themselves to find a breakthrough. In the current political deadlock, formalities do not matter. Above all, President Yoon must listen to what the opposition leader would say today. Yoon needed to demonstrate a determination to cooperate with the majority opposition from now. If Yoon does not change even after the meeting, it is not good for the president or the country. We urge the president to have a substantial meeting with the opposition leader. Government must support the chip industry. Exports were led by the chip recovery. SK Hynix last week delivered an earnings surprise with its best ever sales in the first quarter and the second highest quarterly operating profit that beat market expectation by 40%. In Korea, raising the transparency of appointments can be a better option. If you just laugh at Guangxi and say China is still an underdeveloped country, that's a mistake. Actually, Korea is no different. As an exchange student from Germany at Seoul National University in 2008, David was interested in the popular praise of the Ko-So-young S-line at the time, a barren political demography for conservative. One takeaway from the April 10th parliamentary election is a transformation in political demography. Population change comes from three factors: births, deaths, and the migration. A shift in population triggers political consequences. Korea is under The influence of political demography as reflected in the vote count difference between two regional arch-rivals, Yeongnam and Honam, which stems from their population gaps and the contest between the democracy movement generation and the conservative front uh, oriented towards pro-growth and security. The gulf between the conservative elder generation who experienced war and poverty and the generation of student activists in the 1980s who contributed to the country's transition to democracy by fighting military regimes was less noticeable when both sides of the political aisle maintained some balance in the power equilibrium. But that balance started collapsing in the April election, and the imbalance is set to increase. The bleak outlook should scare conservatives. Abolition of student rights ordinance triggered debate. The Seoul Metropolitan Council abolished the Seoul Student Human Rights Ordinance 12 years after its enactment Friday, but the debate continued on whether it was the right decision. Seoul's annual Space Out competition returns in May. While my earlier albums were definitely made with my fans in mind, this time around I wanted to ensure the music had universal appeal while still staying true to myself. NK Iran deepened partnership through missile tech exchange. High-level delegation from Pyongyang visited Tehran. The ballistic missile Iran fired on April 13th against Israel is similar to North Korea's Rodong missile. Glorifying democracy activists, DPK should drop a self-serving bill to honor activists, people who perished or sacrificed themselves for the sake of their country, or fellow citizens facing life-threatening circumstances deserve recognition. Chinese roots of agriculture. After the Korean War broke out, they all left, she said. The Cold War buried this chapter of Korean Chinese history in her hometown, where in the puzzle of Korean as a national history and identity might we fit highly successful Chinese farmers who lived and farmed among us? Allure of literature. I spent most of my adult life in Canada working as a banker. As I had a 9-to-5 job and casual after-work social gathering were not customary in Canada. I had plenty of time at home, and my favorite pastime was reading. However, the amount of time I was able to set aside for reading on a weekday was less than I desired. Now that I'm retired, I can bury myself I can bury myself in books. Donald Trump and American justice. In the first 2 months of this trial, Trump had offered the defense of himself to the public. In brief appearance between his courtroom table and the television cameras, he portrayed himself as a victim of an unfair and politically motivated prosecution. A few siblings bear brunt of caring for aged father. There are other ways to help with caregiving than in person. One is with money. The family members who are stepping up should insist that the brothers who can't be bothered to do their part contribute to hiring someone to care for dad if they are unable or unwilling to step up. I am one of the young children of 8. One sister is deceased, which leaves 7 of us to care for our father, who has had the dementia since our mother passed. The 4 oldest are retired. The youngest 3 still work. Set boundaries. Be smart and don't take political risk. Say less and do more. U.S. foreign aid bills. What are takeaways for U.S. and allies? Subsequently, contemporary U.S. policymakers could face the domestic politics wary of the risk that foreign aid could eventually result in U.S. direct intervention in the conflicts of Europe and the Middle East. On April 20th, the U.S. House of Representatives ended months of legislative gridlock and passed 4 individual legislative bills. These bills respectively provided foreign aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, and required TikTok's China-based parent company to sell the social media platform to a non-Chinese company. Shortly afterward, the U.S. Senate passed the omnibus legislation combining the 4 House-passed bills. On April 24th, Biden signed the $95 billion foreign aid bills into law, declaring it's good day for the world peace. Canceling Palestine. According to Israel's headline, Finance Minister, over 70% of Israelis support the idea of encouraging voluntary immigration because 2 million people in Gaza wake up every morning with the desire to destroy the state of Israel. Scotters smacks down California in property rights. Property rights are an inalienable right and a fundamental part of this nation's political tradition, yet they face attacks from government busybodies. Financial regulator to scrutinize governance of NH Financial Group. The need for governance reform within Nonghyeo Financial Group has been a top of discussion for quite some time. Everland post-record first-quarter sales on soaring visitors. Visitors attracted people who vowed return to China. Shinhan Financial takes back to top spot in first-quarter earnings. Why had the exchange rate forecast become so challenging? I note that the Korean War is exceptionally sensitive to uncertainties. This is because heightened uncertainties often lead to conservative attitudes on corporate investment. The Korean War's traditional relationship with export growth and capital flows have been broken these days. It seems likely that elevated uncertainties and widening cross-country rate differences dominated the foreign exchange market and caused the US dollar to strengthen as a trend. Traditional formulation explaining Korean won broken. Hypothesis on US dollar dominance. Conditions for non-dollar currency revaluation. We never knew that recessions in major nations were to be that deep nor that short-lived. DeepL unveils AI-powered writing assistant tool. We are creating this language AI platform with enterprises and large business in mind. Korean economy grows, but public failed to feel effect. The surprising growth of the Korean economy in the first quarter of this year appeared not to be felt by the public, as many households and businesses continue struggling with high inflation, costly borrowing rate, and other persistent economic challenges. Korean banks' earnings dilemma: more profits, more responsibility. Heightened pressure put banks in tricky position for growth, says the Fitch rating director. The increased pressure cast a damp on the profitability of banks. U.S. Fed to meet amid dwindling hopes of summer rate cuts. The U.S. Federal Reserve is highly likely to keep interest rate unchanged as policymakers contend with the recent uptick in inflation that had sharply cut the chance of a summer start to interest rate cut. Mistakes turn into blessings in street performance, director says. Japan's pressure on neighbor. Tokyo's unprecedented pressure on neighbor over line data leak threatened bilateral ties. The Japanese government is stepping up pressure on South Korean portal giant neighbor to set up its stakes into a joint venture that runs Line, the dominant messaging app in Japan, citing a data leak, a controversial move that had sparked a wave of critical responses in Korea and is likely to complicate already complex bilateral ties between the two nations. A middle ground in Trump case. There are problems with both of the arguments. Was stellar GDP data mask? The latest developments surrounding South Korea's economy, alongside many other conflicting external conditions, underscore the need for both the government and the Bank of Korea to exercise extreme caution when reviewing economic policies, instead of solely focusing on a narrow set of indicators and political goals. Taiwan policy must be a campaign issue. Of the four foreign policy bills that passed the U.S. House of Representatives recently, the most votes cast were to aid Taiwan. Hype versus Ado. Inspiration, imitation, and plagiarism. Meanwhile, I look forward to New Jeans' forthcoming release, and I congratulate the elite on their appearance on the US Billboard Hot 100. They are the first K-pop group to chart with their debut song. I wish both of the groups well, and I hope the battles between the executives at HYBE do not hurt these young women. A century of better choices will haunt us for 100,000 years. The recency of that date seemed to be a sticking point for the scientists who rejected the Anthropocene concept. America's elite campuses can't educate. What to make of all this? On the afternoon of April 22nd, New York's Columbia University looked like a military installation, not one of the most storied institutions of learning in the U.S. The campus gate, festooned with balloons designed to welcome newly admitted students, all were uh, pad- padlocked shut. Columbia's the main BUA's campus occupies more than 6 city blocks in the Morningside Heights area of Manhattan, and around this huge perimeter Monday were stationed security guards about every 3 meters. King Charles III to resume duties. The 75-year-old monarch will resume some public duties this week following a 3 month break to focus on his treatment and recuperation after he was diagnosed with an undisclosed type of cancer, Buckingham Palace said Friday. Pan America canceled the World Voices Festival amid criticism of response to Israeli-Hamas war. Enduring love beyond the addiction. I lost my 32-year-old son, the baby of my 3 kids, almost 2 years ago to a fentanyl overdose. We all battled his addiction right along with him for more than a decade. He was in and out of jail and actually skipped out on a court-ordered rehab, which of course led to more jail time. He had several broken romantic relationships because he stole from his girlfriend. I paid for rehab, which failed within 60 days of him getting out. I paid for his room at a sober living house, which he got thrown out of within 2 weeks because they found drugs on him. Invest time and energy into something that matters to you. Choose to give whatever job you pursue a unique spin. Separating yourself from the crowd will lead to unexpected opportunities and a connection to someone with something unique to contribute. Personal gain is in the stars. South Africa's celebration set against discontent. Top diplomat Blinken to visit Mideast again. He has had limited success.